We are moving right along with our Laravel social network, and today I want to work on friendships. Now, friendships is going to have a lot of different moving parts. If we go to members, you can see here we have a little handshake, and what I wanted to do was take some of those functions that we have for friendships and display this on whether or not we're actually friends with this page from the members page. I also want to create a full page for all of our friends in addition to some suggested ones, just random users or what have you. And then also on here, I want to set us up so that we can use these buttons to actually do what they're intended to do. There's a lot going on today. We're going to start from the beginning. We're going to work our way through it, and we should have a friendship system by the end of this episode. The first thing that I want to do for this is create a migration and the controller. Now here we can go ahead and start by creating the migration. So we'll do PHP artisan, we'll do it as a model because I do want a model. It'll be the friend model, and we'll add the migration to that. I also want to make a controller. And I'm just going to make it resourceful. I'm not going to add any friendships into that because we are going to deal with that in the traits, which we can actually go ahead and do now. We'll say make trait, and the trait should be named, we'll say in the traits folder, and then we'll say friendable. And that has put that trait in the app concerns traits friendable or traits folder under the name friendable. We come over here and take a look. You can see that's where it is there, and then all of the other things. So why don't we start with the database and work our way through it. Now here I'm going to need the unsigned big integer because we're going to need the friend requester, the person who's sending the friend request, and the user who is receiving that request. So we can do, I'll call them friend requester, just to try to make it as explicit as we can. And then the next one will be user requested. And then I also want to have a status. So we'll say that this is a Boolean. And basically what this will do is it'll ring true or not. So if we are not friends, we don't have any requests going out or anything like that, there's no direct connection to us, then the status for this will be 0. If we are and we are friends, then it'll return 1. So by default, I'm going to put everybody to start at a 0 because no one has created any friendships yet. So when they join up or they sign up or whatever, they're going to already have this as a 0. Let's go ahead to the model and work on that. This one is going to be easy. All we're going to do is use, or we'll do fillable. I think it's that one. Hey, yeah, they fixed this. Okay, cool. I think that's how I spelled it. And this should actually be down here. Okay, let me make sure that I have the field spelled correctly. Friend requester. Now we don't need to fill anything else in here. Let's go ahead and run our migration. Okay, so let's see how this is going to work. We're going to come over here and we're going to go up to this friendable trait. Let me close some of these out. Now, essentially what's going to happen here is that every single relationship that we have regarding our friendable, we are going to create these sort of shortcut functions for. So whether it's to accept, deny, ignore, unfriend, or anything like that, we're going to basically add a bunch of building blocks to get to those functions. So we're going to do all of that in here, which means that in our user model, we can bring in this friendable trait because all of those relationships are going to be based on users. Right? Let's come here and let's bring that in. Now we can do it here. In fact, I'm going to line these up a little bit better because they're a little bit long as one line like this. And I'll say friendable. Let's see if that was imported up top. Friendable. Yeah, it is right up at the very top. we won't have to do anything else in relation to this particular thing in this model, because everything is going to come from this one trait, and we can make it as messy as we want. Everything will be in here. Now, because there are a bunch of them, I'm just going to copy them one by one and we'll go through them because we have a lot of stuff to get through today. And I want to not waste your time as much as possible, okay? So I'm just going to go ahead, paste them in, and then we'll go through them one by one as we do them. This is the friends function. Let's go ahead and import our things. We have the friend and the user. And what's happening here is that we have a friends array that we're creating, and F1 is going to be where the status is 1, where the friend requester is this user's ID. For each one of us as friendship, we're going to push that friendship array into this friends array. Same thing for this one. We're going to create a second array where the status is 1 again, but the user requested, so the other person is this user ID. We're going to pull them all together. We're going to loop over them, and then we're going to push their IDs into the friends2 array. And then we're going to return the entire array, including friends and friends2, are all going to be part of the same group of friends in this function. Now, this whole friendable trait has been a work in process for several years, and so I've made stuff better, probably made stuff worse, but for now, I just want it to be as clear as possible what's happening so that it's easy for you guys to follow along with. The next one, paste that in. Let me close that. Is going to list any pending friend requests sent to the user, right? So we've called it pending friend requests. We have a users array here. We have friendships where the status is 0, where the user requested is this ID. And so for each friendship is friendship, we're going to push that into this users array. We're going to look for the ID from the friendship requester and put it in this array. And then we're going to return users. And this is going to be a list of pending friend requests. We're going to be using this one for our buttons so that we can show pending, so that we know that we've already sent them a friend request. Now for these two, I'm just going to paste them both in. The first one is where we collect all IDs of auth users' friends. So that's all it is. It's collecting all of our friends and it's putting them in an array. And then we'll have friends IDs, which we can search through and have those collections of friends when we need to pull them out. The next one checks if the auth user is friends with a specific user. And again, it's using this friend's IDs. It's called is friends with, yes or no. And this is one of the ones that we're going to be using when we are looking at that members page with the handshake icon. It's just returning all of the users. And if it is, it'll return true. And if not, it will return false. Paste those in. Now this one is going to collect all the IDs of pending friend requests sent. So something that you can do is have a page or somewhere where you just have pending friend requests. So you can decide whether you want to group them all together and then click on them or what have you. But this has been turned into a collection, an array that you can loop over, and it's pending friend requests IDs. The next one is going to check for all pending friend requests sent from the auth user, sent from us. This function is called pending friend requests sent. Who we sent this to. We have an array for users, we have friendships, and where the status is 0, where the friend requester is the authenticated user, we're looping over them, we're grabbing the IDs, and then we are returning this user's array. Now here we have 3 that I pulled out. One is pending friend request sent IDs, and it's just collecting all the pending friend request user IDs sent from the auth user. We're going to pluck the ID, we're going to send it to an array. Checks for pending friend requests sent to an auth user from specific user ID. So someone sending us the request, and then it says has pending friend requests sent from. In addition to has pending friend requests sent to, it checks for any of the friend requests sent to specific users from the IDs. And again, these functions are sort of working their way through the main functions and the collections. It makes it pretty efficient to do a bunch of different things with your friendships based on what you want to do. Now, the next one is going to be pretty long. Go ahead, paste it and go through it. This one is the add friend function. Can we add a friend? So the auth user can send a friend request, but not to self, other friends, already sent requests, or pending sent requests to. So let's do this a little bit so it doesn't look as hard. So auth user can send the friend request, but not to self, not to friends, already sent requests, or pending from sent requests. And all we're doing is just adding the friend. We're passing in the user requested ID, and then we're just using a switch statement to go over what potentially can happen. So we're using that switch statement based on the user requested ID that we're passing in, and we'll be passing that in when we do the functions, right? So this ID equals user requested ID. We have different text messages that you can send. These aren't really going to show up on anything. We're not going to use them specifically for anything. We just are returning them. So we have is friends with, has pending friend request sent to, and has pending friend request sent from. And those are all the ones that we have just put up here, all the smaller collections. And then we're creating a friendship variable. We're creating the friendship. The friend requester will be us, and the user requested will be whatever is the user requested ID that we're passing through here. Once it gets through the switch statement, it goes through its own type of validation. Then it will go ahead and create the friendship, and it'll return the friendship if true. If not, it will return false. Save that just so I don't forget these. Now the next one is the accept friend function. So auth user can accept friend requests, but not from self or friends, and friendship status gets updated. If it has a pending friend request sent from, it will return false. If not, then it'll go ahead and create that friendship. And if friendship, then we'll change the status to 1, we'll return true. If not, we'll return false. Now this one is to deny a friendship. So if someone tries to send you a friend request and you don't want to accept it, you can click deny and it'll turn everything back to 0 basically. So auth user can deny friend request, but not of self, friends, and the friendship status gets deleted. So it's no longer in the database. So we'll deny friend, we'll pass in the requester. It does some checks. It will grab whatever the friendship is. If there's a friendship, then it'll delete it. It'll return true. And if not, then it'll return false. Then we'll come here, paste this one in, and this will be our last sort of function to create the friendships. So here the auth user can unfriend no matter who initiated accepted friendship. And friendship status gets deleted. So this is to delete the friend. So no matter who initiated or accepted or whatever it is, either one of the friends in this friendship can delete the request. They can delete them as a user. They can unfriend them. Right? So it's looking for is friends with, it's going through some quick checks. And then if all of those go through, then we can return false. And you can see here we have 2 different sets of friendships based on who requested it. And then in either case, it will delete the friendship. So I think these are good to start with. Why don't we start first with the friendship page and the link to it and stuff, and then we will get some stuff to display there first. So let's go over to the web route. And we'll create a group. Now I am going to separate these a little bit. This one is going to be called invocables. And those are going to be just a single route. And then for this one, we'll do groups. So it'll be a route. We'll do the prefix. The prefix for the friends will be friends. The name for this, where all the routes are going to be, are friends index, friends store. So we can do friends here. And I'm going to put a dot so that it's friends.store. So here we'll say group. And in this group, we'll have function. And the first one will be right in here. So we can do route, get, friend controller. This will be the index because we're going to do suggested and current friends on here. And as I said, this will be index. So when we're actually going to it, it's going to be friends.index and our route will be /friends. So let's go and work on this in the controller. Oh, did I import that? Yeah, I did. And then we can start first with this. For now, we're not going to do anything fancy. We're just going to add some friends to this page, which doesn't have anything because it doesn't exist yet. So we'll put it in the social folder friends index. And then we'll pass in friends. Now again, we're gonna obviously come back and change this, but for now, we'll just say auth user friends. Now this friends, remember, we just did the trait. This friends is coming from this friends function right here. So it's going to come back as an array. This is the friend controller. For now, let's go ahead and bring that in. Let's add some return types. And let's go and work on that page real quick. I'll just copy this one and we'll do friends index. Let's change stuff from the top to the bottom. So here's going to be friends. This is going to be friends. And for now, I am going to get rid of this because we are going to be using the file that we have in our download. So here I can just say friends. Okay, let's just go over to the sidebar. And is that it? No, it's not. It's the app sidebar. And we can add that field in here. Actually, I want to put it above members. There it is. Now we'll change this if we need to, but for now we can just use the index on there. And the icon, I think the icon that I used on here was handshake. Make sure that imported. And it did. Let's see what we have now. Okay, so we have it here. And well, this user doesn't have any friends. There's no friends for this user, so that's fine. In our download folder, I have the friends.html in here. So I am going to go ahead and just grab everything from here, and then we'll copy it over. Okay, so suggestions, we don't really have anything for yet, but it would be up here. So let's just start with the actual friends part. So you have no friends yet. So let's do a conditional. We'll say v if friends.length is less than or equal to 0. And we'll put templates around this. And this we can move. Okay, so this is essentially what it's going to look like. We don't have any users obviously yet, so let's just focus on this down here. Since this user doesn't actually have any friends yet, let's go and artificially create one because we don't have any buttons to click and do our stuff with yet, right? Our user Veda20 is the user that we're currently signed into, and that ID is 1. So I'm going to open up the friends over here, and then I'm going to create one. So here we'll say this will be ID 1, friend requester will be 1, user requested will be 2, status will say 1 because we're friends, and this I think I can do, I don't know, we'll give that a try. I think these need to be func now. Well, if that's not what it is, then I think it's this one. Okay, very good. Let's refresh this one. And as you can see, we have our date in here. Created at update and a friendship status of 1. So let's go and check the browser now. Go ahead, refresh that. And as you can see, we have now some things, right? But it's not the correct one because we're looping over it. So let's go adjust that so we see the actual friend that we just created. Okay, so let's close that. And then what we can do here is loop over it. So on the card, we'll do our looping before. We say friend, index in friends. The key will be index. And now we can start using this stuff in here. So their link will be to their profile. And remember, we're passing in the username, so it'll be profiles friend dot username. That can stay the same there, but now for the avatar image, we can do friend.avatar, friend.username. Here we can do friend.username. And I think that's it. So now we should be able to get rid of these and only have that one friend. If we do get more, we'll be able to loop over them. Okay, there's our one friend. And if we hover, we can go see our friend. Very good. Now let's go and sort out what we did for the suggestions. So we can go over to the friend controller and add that there as well. So we'll make a variable. And we'll say user where ID does not equal the auth ID, right? Because we're grabbing all users, but we don't want to be a suggested user on that list. So we're going to remove ourselves from that equation. And then we have where not in the ID auth user friends IDs. I can't spell today. And then we can do get. But we're not actually done. So what are we saying here? We're saying the suggested users are going to be users where the ID is not the auth ID, and we're not in the ID where the auth users friends IDs. So whether it's us or our friends, we don't want them listed in suggestions. And that friends IDs, again, we're grabbing from our Friendable trait, which is right here. It's returning a collection of our friends IDs. Also, I want to put it in random order. And I only want to take 6 so that we have a nice little grid of just 6. The information that I want to grab from those users, again, is the ID, username, avatar. So now here we can do suggestions. And then we can just use that variable that we created. And let's make sure we import this user. And that should be good. Let's go and bring it to that page. Don't need that. We'll go ahead and add it here. We don't need this. suggestions, users, user type. So here, let's do the same thing we did for the template of if there's no user. So we can do if suggestions.length is less than or equal to 0. We'll return this, and this will be VLs. Now we can loop over this like we did with the friends. We'll just say suggestion in suggestions. Suggestion.username. Suggestion.avatar, suggestion.username. And that should be it. Let's get rid of these. Let me also add the @ here. Okay, let's see if we broke anything. Okay, very good. So we have suggested users. When we refresh, you can see that they change and they are not the current user that we have here. Very good. So we're listing suggested users. We have our friendships in here, and I want to use one more function in here before we start creating the friendships. I want to use one of them to display whether or not the user is a friend here. And I also want to remove our authenticated user. Well, there are, of course, several different ways of doing this. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of play around with attributes. Now, if we go over to the user model, you can see we have nothing here that says anything about our friendships, right? Because our friendships are coming from the Friendable trait. So all of the relationships that we have. So right now we have a function here, and it just checks for true or false whether or not a user is friends with. So what I want to do is I want to take this function and I want to create an attribute that we can use on any one of the models that we have, namely the user model. Let's come down all the way down to the bottom, and I'm going to call this one is friends with attribute. Now we could, of course, put it in the user model, but since all of our friendship stuff is in here, I figured this would be a good place to do that. So we'll create a function and we'll call it is friends with. This way, it will be loaded as a true or false on anywhere where the user is being displayed. So we don't need anything in here. And this is, of course, an attribute. So we'll go ahead and grab the Illuminate Database Eloquent Casts. That's what we'll import. And here we'll just return attribute. We'll make, and let me add some lines here. We'll make, and then we'll say get function equals auth user. Now we can use that is friends with helper function that we have. We can pass in this ID and we'll say true, else false. What are we saying? Well, we're using that helper function. We're using it to create an is friends with attribute that we can attach to the user model. Even though it's already attached, it's now an attribute, and it will be listed along with all of the other fields in the database, just like a normal attribute, which means that we can come here, go up top, and where we would normally list our attributes is what we'll do here. So again, remember, this is just in place of adding an attribute in this function, right? Without adding an attribute function within this model. So we can say hash appends, and then our function or our attribute name is friends with. So this is what we're appending to this user model, which means that now we can go down to, these are open, I don't want them open. We'll go down to the type, and now we can append that type to our social.ts. Where's our user? We can do it here. It'll be a Boolean, and then I'm going to add a question mark because we may not always need it. So now we can go over to the members and add that to this little handshake here. So we can say vif members dot is friends with, and let me make sure I did that right. And is friends with members. Oh, member. There we go. Okay, so let's see. We should be able to see the handshake on only our friends. And look at that. Now the one user that we have as a friend only has this. Refresh. We haven't changed the order or anything like that yet, so this is what it is. But let's go and do that, as well as removing this user here. So we'll go over to the member controller, and we'll do that up here. So we can just do where use or ID does not equal auth ID. And we're going to come back in here later because we do need to do pagination for here, but for now this is fine. So I'll do in random order. Okay, so now our user is over here. Refresh it, user is over here. That's how we know we've changed it, and our authenticated user also is no longer here. Now what we can do to make this as easy as possible is if we go to any user's profile and we take a look at these buttons, I want to have those properties come in. So I don't want them as an attribute on the user model. We don't really need to do that for all of this because this is going to end up being a component, so we can just put it all in one location right here. So what I want to do is I want to use those functions and pass them to this page so that we can access them here and display these buttons accordingly. Now, if we come over here and we go over to the user profile controller, let me close this, it's a bit messy. User profile controller. And I'm going to come down here to where we're displaying stuff. Now, since we have all those handy functions from the trait, we can just bring them in right here. So we'll do the first one, which is friends with, and we'll say that this is the auth user is friends with. And then here we need to pass in the user ID, and that user ID is coming from the route because we're using root model binding. So whatever profile it is, that's the profile that we're injecting in here. So I'm going to copy this a couple more times. This is going to be friend request sent to. And now this will be has pending friend request sent to, and then that's going to be the user ID as well. This one is going to be more like this one, so I'll copy that, and this is going to be from has pending friend request from, and then we're passing in that user. So now these are things we can add to that page. So we'll come down to the view and add those in here because we're already passing in props. So I'm actually just going to grab those from the controller so I don't have to type them all out. And I'll just take them from here. So now this is going to be a Boolean. I feel like I definitely broke something. Okay, great. Now let's take a look at where our buttons are. Well, our buttons are here, and we're going to use those on these buttons. Why don't we take this and make this into a component, and then we can pass everything to that component and just work from there. I'm going to grab it from, let's say I grab it from here. We'll come over here, we'll go to our components, custom, and we'll call it friend status. Let's clean this up so that we know what we're working with here. No, it's in the profile. So this is going to be friend status. And then we'll pass in those new properties that we just added. So we're not going to need this. And now we've already passed all of that stuff through. And let's come up here and clean up what we don't need. And this can be moved over. Okay, good. So now let's grab these and we'll bring them into our new component. Okay, let's just make sure we haven't broken anything in terms of being able to see those buttons. Definitely broke something. And profile. Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay, well, we didn't import any of the button styling or anything to that new component. So let's see. Hourglass, yeah, we didn't import anything. But just so you know as well, too, when you are looking at this and you see hydration node mismatch, normally that means that if you have something coming from the controller and you're using it as the props. So for us, we're using types. So some of these things we have types in here that haven't been fully fleshed out. So like for the posts in here, we're using created at, but we're not passing created at in through the controller. We're just defining it in the types for now. We're going to change that. But that's why we're seeing these hydration node mismatches, because those created ads aren't actually really here, right? So let's just deal with our button situation up here. Let's first import our stuff. Okay, that was very easy. So now all that should be imported and our styling should work. But now we can do some conditionals. I'm going to create some templates and we're going to do it based on that. So we'll say template and we have 4, I think it is. Let's see. Now the first one is going to be unfriend. We need to check if the user is friends with. And what's the next one? Well, the next one is going to be to accept, so they had to have sent it. So we can say v else if there's a friend request sent from. Now remember, this is an accept or ignore button in here, so we have to wrap those two buttons in here. Then we have a pending friend response. So now this one can say v else if friend request sent to. So we sent it to them. We need to know if they've accepted or not. And the last one's just going to be v else because it's just going to be what else is there. Okay, so let's see what our status is now. Refresh. And now you can see we can add a friend in this user. Why don't we go to our actual user? We can have an unfriend button, and that's pretty much it. So if we go to any stranger, add friend, and then we haven't sent anything, so it doesn't exist. Why don't we change this from status of 1 to status of 0, just so that we can see. This is user 2. I can't remember the name. So now we have no friends. Let's try to find the other user, which I believe was this one. And now you see there's a pending response, right? Because user 1 sent the request to user 2 for friendship. And so we just made it so that they haven't accepted yet. So that's what this is doing here. Now, why don't we start making some functions so that these buttons actually do what they're intended to do? Because we have a resourceful controller for the friendships, let's go to the web routes. We're going to make all of the routes for it. And then we're going to deal with the functions in the controller. So I'm going to copy this a couple more times. We're going to be using 4 different functions for this. The first one is going to be post. And we're going to use root model binding to pass in the user. Friend controller, this is going to be store. And the name, it's going to be store. Friends.store is going to be the name of that route. So let's do post, we'll do patch, we'll do put, and we'll do delete. For all of these, we're going to have to pass in those users because we're interacting directly with them. For the patch, this is going to be update, update. For the put, it will be edit, edit. And for the delete, it will be destroy. Okay. All of our routes are done. Let's go over to the controller and start fleshing these out. So we'll start with the store, which is going to be for add friend. I know we did the routes really quickly, but in order to not confuse anyone, we're going to do these one at a time. So we'll say user, because that's what we're passing in to the routes. And then we're going to say auth user. And on the auth user, through the Friendable trait, we have a function called add friend. Add friend is going to need the user ID. That's all we have to do for that. We've already created the functionality for add friend by adding it to our Friendable trait. And now this is all we need to do. So now we can return to route, and we'll just go back to the page, right? The profiles, whatever the profile is that we're on. Pass everything in. That's all good. And let me give this a type, which is just redirect response. So we'll go to friend status, and that's going to be the very first. Well, no, it's not going to be the very first one. It's going to be this function right here. Because we are using Inertia's form helper, it's going to make all of this super easy. So we'll come down here, we'll add our action, and with Wavefinder, our route is store, right? Because we just did that friends store. So let's just make sure that we got the right one. which is going to be coming from friends. That's not the right one. Why are you being so difficult? It may not have propagated yet. So up here we'll do import store from routes. How do we do it? I don't remember. I'll copy that one. It's at routes. Friends. It should be okay. If not, we'll come back and fix it. Something that's happening here for store is we need to be able to pass in the user, and we didn't bring the user in here. So we can do right from the profile, pass in the user, because the user is coming in here, right? We have profile. Instead of profile, I'm going to say user. I'm going to call profile. And this is going to be user type. So now for this function, we can pass in that user. Hopefully that should fix it. We'll figure it out. But let's just continue on for now until we get to the front end and see if there's anything else. The method will be post. I'm just going to put options. Let's see, let's do it like this. And all we're going to have for options is preserve scroll is true. Type button of submit, add friend. I didn't put a spinner on this. You obviously can if you want, but that's where we are for now. Let's go refresh this. We'll go to one of these users and we'll go and click. Now you see we have pending friend response. So that means it must have gone through in our database. To the database, and we refresh this. You can see now we have two relationships. Friend requester is me, user requested is 7, and status is 0. So that has worked the way it's supposed to. Let's go ahead and work on another one. Why don't we do deny and accept next, since they are in the same little thing here. So for deny, it's going to be in here. User. And I'll just grab this because it's pretty much the same thing. This is going to be deny friend. And we're passing in the route. We'll do update. This is just going to be user. And instead of deny, it'll be accept. Okay, let's go add that to our friend status component. It'll be these two here, the accept and the ignore. So what I'm going to do here is grab this because, you know, it's pretty much the same. So we'll do this one first. This will now be update. We'll add them in up top in a minute, but for now, let's just get through this. So that's for accept. This one is going to be for deny. And the function for this is edit. This method is going to be put. Let's go and add them here. and let's give them a try. Now for this user, we set it so that we send them a friend request. So I'm going to switch this around so that we can accept or deny it. That's this relationship here. So I'll just change this to 7, this to 1. Now when we see it on here, we should see the 2 buttons. Very good. So let's go ahead and accept. And now you see the unfriend button is here. So that's good. That went through. Let's refresh it and make sure it doesn't change. Okay. Let's go and refresh this thing. You can see that here. So now I'll change this so that we can try the other. Refresh that. And now let's try ignore. And now it's gone back to add friend. If we refresh, it's the same. And if we refresh this, now our relationship is gone. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. I'm going to refresh this and I'm going to put that we are friends. I'm going to put that we're friends because the next one we're going to have is to unfriend. Refresh, we have unfriend here. Now let's go ahead to the friend controller and work on that last function, which is to destroy. Now, destroy is going to be very similar to the others. This is going to be user, same thing, user. And now the function that we have here is delete friend. And then we can return back to the user profile. Friend status, and that's this button right here. So now very much like the other ones, I'm just going to grab this. This is going to be destroy. Method is delete. And up here, I'll just put destroy. I think I need to refresh something on here for it to pick it up, but at least it works. Okay, so now we have the delete button or the unfriend button working. Refresh. And now that relationship is gone. Refresh, it's still gone. If we come to the database and refresh this, that relationship is gone again. Let's just do a quick search through our files and make sure that we don't have anything that we don't need anymore in here. We'll start with the social. That's good. User profile. Good. Members. Good. Okay, looks like we have everything. I will be putting some toast notifications up later. I'm not going to do that today because today was a big video, but we're going to have that when we do this, but we're also going to have them when we do the post. So maybe after we sort out the last of our posts, we can go ahead and add that. But for now, we have a friendship system working. If you're enjoying the content, please go ahead and click that like button as it really does help out the channel. Here's a video YouTube thinks you'll like, and here's a playlist to follow along. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.